Today I want to share a small update for the SimpleWebRTC asset, which now supports Unity's visual scripting system. So just to showcase it beforehand, I'll just connect all my clients to the WebSocket server, which is running in the background. And I'm now trying to share the video of the red cube over the network by starting the video transmission here in the Unity editor. And as you can see, my smartphone client and my web client both receive the video, and the same goes for the Android client. If I do that, here we go. And the functionality is unaffected from the visual scripting methods, but as we see later on, the visual scripting itself is done with custom nodes and show you an overview in a fresh project. So before starting, I just wanted to mention, if you're going to use SimpleWebRTC, make sure to use version 1.4.1, which was released, depending on when you're watching this, a few days ago, and is not yet live at the Unity Asset Store. This should be within the next few days, but you can always use the GitHub version. I'll just show you in a second how that's done. And it's even described here, installation using Unity Package Manager. So what is Unity Visual Scripting? It's the visual scripting interface similar to the blueprints in Unreal Engine from Unity. Usually every new Unity project starts with the visual scripting package imported. If not, I'll put all the links again in the description box. Make sure to import the visual scripting first and prepare the project. As you can see here in the asset store, this is still version 1.4.0. Make sure to use version 1.4.1 to have a proper package manager support. And the same goes for the server. The server is running on Glitch at the moment. Make sure to remember that Glitch will stop the web hosting of its web apps on the 8th of July, as far as I can remember. So make sure to use an alternative like Replit or something like that. Nevertheless, let's get started with a completely fresh project in Unity 6.1. And it's just the universal 3D rendering pipeline, as you can see here. So first of all, window package management, package manager. Let's check which kind of visual scripting is here. It's 1.9.6. We can just update that. And we have to, of course, initialize it under edit, project settings, and visual scripting. And as you can see here, the initialize visual scripting button, click it, and everything will be initialized for us. And this button here, the regenerate nodes button, is pretty important. So every time we'll change nodes or add custom nodes, we have to click that to regenerate all the nodes throughout the project. But more of that later. Let's import the SimpleWebRTC package. So let's copy the link for the native WebSocket, add it to our Unity project, the plus sign, add from Git URL, paste it, install, and after that, add the package from the Git URL or the Unity Asset Store, whatever is the preferred way. I use the Git URL here and install. And to use the SimpleWebRTC with the visual scripting, you will have to add the samples for that. But first of all, let's have a look down here. As you can now see, the SimpleWebRTC package is now within the packages folder and no longer in the assets folder. This was a change that was introduced with version 1.4.1. All the older versions work as well, but make sure if you upgrade, when you're upgrading, that this has now changed. And here in the samples tab is the visual scripting sample. Make sure that your visual scripting is initialized before importing this. Then click on import. And now click on regenerate nodes. So everything throughout the SimpleWebRTC nodes will be added to your visual scripting. After that is done, let's have a look at the sample. There is now the samples folder, 1.4.1, visual scripting sample, and the scenes folder, scene folder, where the test scene is here. We saw that before. And if you're now looking at our hierarchy, there are no more buttons. It's all done by keystrokes because I decided that it would make sense that this looks a little bit similar. And let's have a look at the visual scripting graph. which is actually added here. And you see that this graph, that this visual scripting object is empty. You can just select the SimpleWebRTC graph, which is delivered here in the graph folder, and open that. Just maximize the graph window. Here we go. And you see that there are a lot of new nodes added to the visual scripting system. And for every function, method, or something else you are already familiar with or is shown on the other tutorials, it's already here, like the connect to WebSocket, connect to WebRTC, WebSocket message, send data message, and so on. Start audio, video transmission, stop the transmission, disconnecting, as well as all the events. And this is actually pretty easy to use. So whenever you want to call a function, like for instance, the unique player name, you can either drag this up here, go to SimpleWebRTC and select the node you want to use. For instance, the set unique player name, you can then add a string here and so on. Or if you want to just use the events, right click, go to events, there's a SimpleWebRTC folder down here where you can link all the needed events within the script graph. You can also use the debug log messages and string literals and so on. For everything here, the graph is just an example. You can use whatever you want. There is also an input system. There are also input actions linked for the keystrokes and so on. So it's really easy to use. And for everyone who is familiar with visual scripting, this will be a walk in the park. So let's check out the general setup for this. So everything is the same from the setup, like you have the prefab here with the WebRTC connection object, and everything is set up like the WebSocket server address, stun server address, and so on. You can use it as you're used from the other tutorials with one minor difference. And I see that this script is already missing here. I have to fix that later on. We have to add from the utils the WebRTC connection visual scripting events here. Remove the missing script and link our WebRTC connection down here. Something is broken with the package, but you can fix it by just removing the component and adding this here again. And this is only a wrapper for triggering all the events on the event bus for the visual scripting system so that all these events are working down here. This is the first thing. And the second thing is to add scene variables to your scripting graph. And whenever you are creating scene variables, this one here is created, this game object where you can add the variables. And this should only be your client stun connection with the name client connection, and everything else will be handled by the nodes themselves. You can also do this in the script graph over here in the blackboard. Go to scene and you can create a new scene variable here and just link your client stun connection. And before starting our test, we have to make sure that the player input is correctly routed. And I added a small input action asset here, which we can just drag over here to the actions. Our UI module is using a different one. Let's see, we have just replaced that here too. It actually doesn't matter here because we're not going to use the canvas or the UI at all. We just have to make sure that the right input system actions are used. The default map is the SimpleWebRTC, and I'll just show you how that looks. It's a SimpleWebRTC map where all the keyboard strokes just mapped over here. So you can replace that anytime and just make sure it's linked in the player input, or if you're not using the player input at all, just forget that. So we're saving, we're starting, we're checking if the WebSocket will connect. I'm pressing C and we see that the WebSocket is connected. I'll just add the SimpleWebRTC VS text here to make it easier to filter, and you can also disconnect pressing X. And as you see, that worked quite well. And it also works together with the web solution as we saw beforehand and everything else. And I hope that helped. If you want to support the channel, and it really, really helps the channel, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and maybe become a member of the YouTube channel, or support us on Patreon, which is also a feasible method. Or if you don't want to go for a monthly commitment, make sure to subscribe or to donate on Ko-fi. It really, really helps. I would really appreciate that. And stay tuned, there's a lot more to come, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.